Most Python beginners write loops like this, but you can do the same thing in one line and it looks way cleaner. Now, this is what most beginners do. They write squares is equal to a list, and then they write for I in range, for example, 5, and then they write squares dot append I times I. Now, actually, but this code, it works, but it's very long. Wait, so let me just add indentation and a print or print squares. There you go. All right, so this code works, but it's very long. Now, let me show you guys a one-line version of writing this, like 4 lines of code. You can write basically all of this, but in only one line. But how do you do this? Well, let me show you guys. So basically, you write squares is equal to everything inside. You write I times I for I in range 5. Now, there you go. And then you just write print squares, and it will obviously give us the same result. Now let's execute the program, and as you can see, it ends up printing 0, 1, 4, 9, 16 basically. Isn't that cool, guys? So yeah, you can basically do that for like to find a square of any numbers. Now basically here, let me break this code down for you guys step by step so that you guys can understand it. Now here, the I times I is basically the value. Now for I in range 5. Now what does this do? So basically, we told Python to write a code that prints from 0 to 4 because 5, Python never includes 5. So if you do, like, for example, 6 in here, it would end up stopping till 5. So yeah, here we wrote 5, so we actually wanted to stop till 4. So it would end up printing 0 to 4. Now basically, the first value of I is 0. Now it would do 0 times 0 is equal to 0. Then it would end up printing squares, which would end up printing 0. And then it would become 1 times 1, which would basically make it, 1 again, and then 2 times 2, 4, and then 3 times 3, which is 9, and then 4 times 4, which is 16. So it basically ends up giving like every, like the square of every value. Like the value keeps changing every time because it's a for loop, of course. It's going to keep changing the values. Now let me give you guys a strings example that could actually work in our favor for like this exam, for this topic. Now let's write names is equal to, for example, Alex, John, and Max. All right. And I'll write it in capital. There you go. Now here, basically, actually, I'll write it in lowercase. So wait a minute. There you go. Alex, John, and Max. All right, now I'll write upper is equal to name. Upper is equal to name dot upper. Name dot upper, and then for name in names. For name in names. All right. Now, let me just close this with the bracket. And as you can see, we just created like a one-line array or list, you could say. So print upper. Now, what does this code do? Basically, for every name in the names, it would end up converting it into uppercase. So in this case, it would end up printing Alex, John, Max, all in uppercase. Now here we wrote everything here in lowercase. Now, but if we want to do, for example, convert everything to lowercase, we could write lower. Let's write everything in here like in uppercase. So John, and then max, then of course it would end up using the Python function lower. And as you can see here, let me just scroll this for you guys. It ends up printing Alex, John, and Max, just like how we wanted it to. Now it works with strings too. Now let me give you guys a condition example. Now basically, evens is equal to, for example, now we want to find an even, like even numbers between a range. Now, how do you do that? Well, you would write like a for loop and then an if statement writing if I is equal to like modulus 2 is equal to 0, but that takes too long, so we're going to do the one-line version again, which is really easy. Now you write I for I in range 10, and then we'll write I modulus 2 is equal to 0. There you go, for I in range. All right, then we'll write print evens. Now this would end up printing all the even numbers in just by writing a single line. Wait, I think I made a mistake. Oh yeah, if I. There you go. Now let's clear the terminal and execute the program. As you can see, it ends up printing 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Between like the range till 0 to 10 or 9, you could say. So it's gonna do like, for example, 1 modulus 2. The remainder is like, for example, 1, I think. No, actually 0, 0 modulus 2, so it would end up printing 0. The remainder is 0. Then 1 modulus 2, the remainder is 1. And then 2 modulus 2, 0. So basically modulus 2, even numbers, their remainder always gives 0. So this one adds conditions very easily. Now here we could use like a comparison like example. So evens is equal to an array, and then let me just clear this terminal, and then we'll write for I in range 10. If I modulus 2 is equal to 0, then we'll write evens dot append. All right. Then, wait, let me just remove this terminal real quick. Now we'll write print evens. Basically, it was a indentation. So if we do it here or here, like it would end up going like inside the if statement, and here if we do it like we want it to be outside like the for loop and if statement, because it would keep up like looping the print over and over. So we don't want that. We actually want it to be outside the for loop. And if you want it to be outside the for loop, we just have to unindent, or like, yeah, unindent, I mean, or de-indent. Now basically, yeah guys, that was it for today's tutorial. So please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you understood the one-liners trick or list comprehensions in Python. So please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And yeah guys, have a nice day. Bye.